Hello, and welcome to the first of two brief videos that will provide an overview of the air quality analysis being conducted for the I-580 truck access study. The Bay Area Air District is working with Caltrans to understand air quality changes that could occur if trucks were allowed on a section of the 580 that has historically been off limits to trucks heavier than 9,000 pounds. Here in part one, we will give a short introduction to some important air quality concepts. Of course, air pollution has been a concern in California for decades. And way back in the 1950s, motor vehicles were identified as a major culprit behind the smog that often blanketed Los Angeles and other parts of the state. Eventually, air quality began to improve as control systems were developed and emission standards were adopted. However, traffic is still of concern from an air quality perspective. And diesel trucks are of particular concern due to the types and amounts of pollution they emit. In looking at air quality impacts from trucks and other vehicles, there are several different types of emissions we must consider. Of course, vehicles emit gases and particles through the exhaust system, which are sometimes called tailpipe emissions. Other gases are emitted through the evaporation of vapors from a vehicle's fuel system. Lastly, vehicles emit particles through brake wear, tire wear, and the resuspension of dust that is accumulated on road surfaces. And there are different sets of pollutants associated with each of these processes. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to focus on some vehicle-related pollutants that are especially important from a human health perspective. PM 2.5, or fine particulate matter, refers to tiny particles that can penetrate deep into the lungs and bloodstream, causing health effects like asthma attacks and heart disease. PM 2.5 can be emitted from a vehicle's tailpipe, from brake and tire wear, or through the resuspension of road dust. Diesel particulate matter, or DPM, is a special form of particle pollution that is highly toxic and is the leading driver of air pollution-related cancer risk in the Bay Area. DPM is associated with exhaust from heavy-duty trucks and other diesel-fueled vehicles. Lastly, I'll note that motor vehicles emit air toxics other than DPM, such as benzene and formaldehyde. These air toxics contribute to a variety of negative health effects and must be considered when evaluating traffic-related health risks. Given this background, it's important for us to understand the impacts of traffic and changes in traffic patterns. And this figure shows us an analysis chain that has been widely used for conducting that kind of impact assessment. First, we want to develop an emissions inventory, which is an estimate of how much air pollution is being emitted by sources of concern. Next, we want to figure out what happens to the air pollution after it is emitted. Factors like weather and local terrain impact the pollutant concentrations or the amount of pollutants present per volume of air. Ambient concentrations can be measured using special instruments or modeled using computer programs that simulate pollutant concentrations. Another important question is, who ends up breathing the air pollution? Here we're talking about human exposures, which are evaluated by combining pollutant concentrations with population data. Lastly, we want to tie exposures to potential health effects. The risk of specific health outcomes like cancer can be estimated based on the toxicity of specific pollutants. These are the basic steps that will be followed to evaluate air quality impacts during the I-580 truck access study. That wraps up part one of this video on air quality analysis for the I-580 study. I hope you will join us for part two. And you can also access information on the truck access study through the links provided on this page. Thanks for your interest in this project.